I came into Brown very, very sure that I was going to be a neuroscientist. The neuroscience department here is absolutely phenomenal. We've had big names. We've had professors that quite literally wrote the textbook. But through my time exploring, through shopping period, through the open curriculum, now my concentration is both health and human biology and ethnic studies. And I definitely don't think I would have had that opportunity to explore or even that opportunity to think about a lot of these issues if not for the open curriculum. You hear a lot about pre-meds, like crying in the library, right? For organic chemistry, for physics, for a whole host of different requirements that they really have to think about and they really have to not necessarily struggle through, but it takes a lot of their time and it takes a lot of their effort. With this program, a lot of our requirements are lessened, and the philosophy of the program is in its name. It's supposed to be a liberal medical education, which means I have been given the opportunity to study things like anthropology and ethnic studies and sociology, which I personally find to be much more pertinent, much more salient to medicine, which I think is probably one of the most social of sciences. I think as a student, one of the most exemplifying experiences you will go through, at least for me, is shopping period. And you would think by now, as a senior about to go through my last semester, I would have a much better grasp on it. But that's totally untrue. So most people during shopping period, they'll shop maybe 6 to 8 classes, pick 4 to 5. This continually happens every single year. If anything, it's gotten worse. Where I come to shopping period ready with a list of maybe 12 to 15. And I absolutely just cannot decide because every class looks phenomenal. I've heard great things about every professor. And it's exhausting and it's stressful because you're running from class to class and you're trying to sit in and as much of the class as you can. You're trying to soak up the professor. You're trying to look through the syllabus. And it always comes down to like that last week of shopping period to me when I'm trying to make that last decision between the classes that I'm going to take. And I think that's an amazing thing to go through. That's an amazing stress to have. It's not a bad thing to be worried about. I'm a minority recruitment intern in the admissions office. It's the best job I've ever had. It's one of the favorite things that I do on this campus. And this position was created out of student protest years and years ago. It's amazing to see that the administration continues to listen to students' voices. This position was created because of students' voices. The open curriculum was created due to student voices. The Third World Center as a program, as an institution, was created because of student demands. I think Brown definitely isn't, necessarily the place for everybody. It can be intimidating because there is such an amazing amount of opportunity. You do have to learn how to navigate it. You do have to learn how to sort of build your own education, and you have to have the sort of desire and motivation to want to seek out the opportunities that you're looking for. It's a little bit self-selecting. The people who are interested in building their own education or being the architects of their own education are the kind of people that fit in here and are the kind of people that will vibe very much with the atmosphere that Brown offers. Something that an admissions officer told me once is that Brown admissions office is looking for students that their high schools will miss. So it's not the students that, have amazing standardized test scores and have, straight A's and do all the things right. I think there is a certain consideration given to community building and being a good person and being a thoughtful thinker and being really interested in the ideas that you want to pursue and being interested in pushing forth and sort of questioning the things you want to pursue. They look very closely at the recommendation letters. They look very closely at how their peers and their teachers talk about them because they want students here that are going to really contribute to the community and be really great members of Brown University, not just great members of a medical school or a engineering program. I got involved with research my freshman spring, not trying very hard. I just approached my professor, told him that I might be interested through a series of email exchanges and resume exchanges. I had a project downtown in the emergency department of Rhode Island Hospital within a couple weeks. And it's totally possible. And I think that sort of opportunity it speaks volumes to the amount of impetus and emphasis put on education and not schooling and not training. My Thanksgiving break my freshman year, I wasn't sure I was able to go home. And my advisor invited me over to her house for Thanksgiving dinner. And, constantly, instead of going to office hours, I'll grab coffee with my professors. I will sit down and have a conversation with them that has nothing to do with class. That sort of, that give and take relationship between the administration and the students, again, goes along with the whole education system and philosophy of Brown, that it really wants to cultivate people who are thoughtful thinkers, and not just people who are training for a certain career path. And I know as a student, I've been tremendously thankful for that. Professor Bunjiro, who's a much-loved immunology professor here, if you sit down at his office hours, he pushes this huge bowl of candy as close to you as humanly possible, because he wants you to take a piece of candy and he wants you to be happy, and he wants you to come to his office hours. I've heard so many times people saying, your professors really want you to come to these office hours. They're not just holding it because they have to. They're holding it because they want to talk to you. I think one of my fondest memories or experiences about Brown is something that happens all the time. And that's sort of, when you go to the library ready to study, ready to write that paper, ready to study for that exam, and you text your friends, like, yeah, we're going to study. I promise, we're going to study tonight. And you end up just having conversations. You end up talking to 3 a.m. about social justice and cultural appropriation, and then it's already 3 a.m., so you keep talking about it, and then it's 5 a.m. and you go to Louie's. That's sort of, I guess, one of the biggest and most important parts of my Brown education. It's not sitting in lecture hall, it's not reading a textbook, it's just hearing the amazing thoughts and the amazing ideas that my peers have. And how those are all influenced by a diversity of thoughts and a diversity of experiences. I think that's probably the most important part of my experience here at Brown. It's the right size. It has all of the resources of a very large research university, but the intimacy of a small community. It has, the thoughtfulness to consider social justice issues, but it's also a member of the Ivy League. It sort of straddles a lot of boundaries, and to me sort of takes the best combination of both, and I think that's what's different.